What's going on, people? Welcome back to Curtis Shaw TV. Back with another live stream, one you've been asking for a while. The Arsene Wenger stream. Only right that I bring a special guest in the building. Tell me there what he's saying, bro.
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a little while, but obviously we've made it happen today.
Yeah, man. Appreciate having you on, bro. And listen, I've put the hyperlink in the description so people, Turkish is close to 50K. So go over there and subscribe. Let's get him there today if possible.
Love for that, bro. Love for that. And big up you as well, man. Like I said to you the other day, at the AFTV studio, I said to you, bro, remember when you asked me for advice right at the beginning? And I said, just be consistent and just do your thing. And look at what you're doing now, bro. Like, the levels have gone up immensely. And well done to what you're doing over your end as well. And there's bound to be a show down the line with me and you somewhere. It's
has to be.
It's going to come eventually, but obviously it all has to work out in scheduling and whatnot. We have to figure out a name and whatnot. But I said, up to what you've done so far, man.
No, I appreciate it, bro. And you know what? I always say this to Laurie and them, man. Like, to be fair, you was the first person that brought me on one of the AFTV shows outside of the fan cams, with Supporters Club and that. So, you know what I mean? I'll always be grateful for that, man. So,
Come on, man. That's nothing to me, man. Like I said, even Stricto said it the other day. Stricto was like, yo, big up for bringing me on Forever Arsenal. I was like, bro, it's nothing to me. Like, well, what is it to me to help someone out? It doesn't cost me a thing. It doesn't take away from me anything. Like, for me, that's what it's about. Like, we should, as Arsenal fans and as a football community, be a lot more tight-knit, I think. But it is what 100%. It is.
Yeah, man. So, listen, do you know what? I can see all them shirts in the background as well, man.
A good few, man. A good few.
There's a good few there, man. But listen, Arsene Wenger, I've had to write notes. That's how bad it is, because there's so many things, so many different elements for his time at the club.
Yeah.
Just like I was seeing here, he's managed the most games in the Premier League. Overall, just before we start going into the ins and outs of it, do you still view Arsene Wenger as a legend of Arsenal?
I do. I actually do. And I've come to that assumption over time, because the last, 2-3 years without Wenger, I've thought to myself, what has he done and what hasn't he done? What has he achieved? What has he caused? And all putting together, I can't dismiss the fact that he's given me the best footballing moments with Arsenal Football Club in my life. Regardless of what happened afterwards and at the end, that still happened. And that to me means he remains a legend. But when we delve into the topic of Arsene Wenger, I think that's when you find out that he divides opinion a lot, and there are a lot of criticisms you can put towards Wenger, especially the latter half of his career. So I say he's a legend, but the latter half tarnished that legacy.
It's a shame, isn't it? And a lot of people say that it was almost two different sections, like the first 10 years of great success and then the second 10 years where it seemed to be a lot of politics involved, and it was a shame the way he left, really, in the end.
Yeah, come on, man. No one wanted it to end like that. At the end of the day, I wanted Wenger gone a long time before you knew me, the internet knew me. Like, I saw things in Wenger and what was happening at Arsenal Football Club maybe 4 or 5 years after we moved into Emirates. I started questioning a lot of things. So let's say around 2010-11 was when I initially thought it was best for Wenger to move on. And then, I started appearing on the internet in 2017. People got to understand that's 6 years of me already wanting something that not happening. It's not being rumored to happen. And there is no question about his role and what he's, doing at the club. So by that time, I was already frustrated. So people only know me for coming in and being very adamant with Wenger out, innit?
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
But back to the early times, obviously, when he first came in, and Anelka and those kind of players there, and Burkhardt, he had that French market on lock, didn't he? He seemed to be ahead of a lot of managers at that time. Like, what was your early memories of Wenger and watching that Arsenal team?
It was mad. Like, what he brought to the club was different. Anelka was like the first of many.
Yeah.
But I remember Anelka at Highbury. I remember being at certain games, and the feeling, was something special was coming. That's what the feeling was. we already had Bergkamp. The thing with Anelka was, an 18, 19-year-old, prospect. He's come, done what he's done in his first season.
Yeah.
Wenger's come in, changed it around in a short space of time, because we wasn't doing great before Wenger.
No.
So he had to come in and them times there was a lot more patience with it all, but he still achieved a quick turnaround, which is credit to him. So it's only good memories I remember with Arsene Wenger and Highbury. There is no bad memories of Highbury and Arsene Wenger. Every Highbury game I remember and I look back on, it's all good times with Arsene.
Yeah. You know what? To be fair, I think I only saw Arsenal at Highbury about 8 or 9 times, because at the time I was living up north. It was hard for me to get tickets and stuff. But I just remember every time coming, I just felt like the place was special. And Ian Wright was probably the player that made me support Arsenal. So when he replaced him with Anelka, I was skeptical, like, yo, how are you getting rid of Wright for this young buck from France? But when I seen Anelka, I was like, yo, to this day, Anelka's probably one of my favorite strikers at Arsenal.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's a shame that it was such a short space of time, and what happened. But even when you look back at that deal, wasn't it that deal that helped us build a training ground?
Yeah,
and we got Davor Suker back as well for 3 million. So it was like 20. It was like a training ground and Davor Suker for Anelka, and at that time, that done well for us. That move, that business move, in a sense, done well for us.
Yeah.
Because selling, your star striker for 20 mil, of course, 20 mil them times was massive.
Yeah.
It's not something we wanted to do. It's not something we wanted the money for. But when you look back at what happened off the back of it, it was good business. Something we fail to do these days.
Oh, yeah, that's an understatement. Longolo said, as a Chelsea fan, I enjoy your two's analysis on AFTV. Big up for that. Obviously, he wins the double, 97, 98. Everyone's like, wow, this guy, remember the famous Arsene Who in the newspaper, wins the double, and all of a sudden, Ferguson, all of them are taking note of him now, and you're just thinking the roller coaster's about to begin from here, man.
Yeah, man. Listen, these memories. Yeah, this is what makes him a legend.
Yeah.
Because I still, when I'm talking of this time and I don't link it to what the club is now, I can only talk fondly of it. Winning the double, and not only doing it once, he done it a couple of times, but winning the double, the way we done it, the memorable moments, and look at the way it ended with Tony Adams.
Yeah.
In the kit we done it in, with the badge we done it in. There's so many good memories from that time. But the double really made people kind of think to themselves, right, like, Ferguson and United have got a competition at last, in a sense. And it definitely, started the rivalry between him and Wenger. Well, Ferguson, and Wenger.
Ferguson, yeah. Obviously, we get to the 2000s and Henry turns up, and it's like, do you know what? I had a funny story. I went to Wembley once to watch England in a friendly, and Thierry Henry, we just signed him, and he's sitting 2 rows behind me at the time. So my dad was like, oh, Thierry Henry. And me, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I wasn't overly excited about Henry at the time, because I just looked at him as a quick winger at Juventus.
Yeah.
He wasn't that striker. So my dad's like, you're going to go and speak to him? I'm like, nah, man, he's not even that big. Like, you know what I'm saying? Since that day, I've never seen this guy in person. I'm like, yo, what a decision I made, man. Man was treating Henry like he was any guy, but
that's mad.
It's crazy, bro. Just overall, before we get into that, would you say that, because I said yesterday, for me, Henry's the best player to play in the Premier League. Do you put him as the best Arsenal player and the best Premier League player?
Yeah, both, yeah. 100%,
yeah.
100%. 100%.
Because
don't get me wrong, there is quality players that have appeared in the Premier League. And regarding Arsenal, Bergkamp's another one I rate highly. But for what Henry achieved, and to this day, statistically, that season that Henry had 2020 in, no one's done it again since. And if you look at world football, I think Messi is the only one that's done it since. Getting 20 goals and 20 assists in a season. The only thing, Henry lacked is the Ballon d'Or, which he should have won one of those seasons. And the Champions League, which we should have won that night, against Barca. But for me, Henry, he's clear as the GOAT of the Premier League, but if the impossible happens and Ronaldo wins a league with Man United now and potentially a Champions League in the next 2 years, that debate actually becomes a debate. I'm not having it as a debate now. Yes, okay, Ronaldo won titles and whatnot, but Ronaldo was only had an impact on a couple of those, and he wasn't around in the league long enough, and he didn't do it long enough like Henry did. But if he comes back and does what he does, there's competition there. A lot of people are trying to say Aguero and whatnot now. Henry's different level.
Henry's different, man. He was years ahead of the game. I feel like he was 5 years ahead of football at the time when he was playing.
Yeah, some of the things he done was mad. That Man United goal, when he just dinked it up and he just turned and swiveled outside of the box and he just looped over Barthez. It was, like I said, those moments, is what still remains in me and keeps me fighting that maybe one day we can have those moments again.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then obviously moving forward, Invincibles. I think when I look back at the Invincibles, I kind of have a little bit of regret with that because I always look at it and think, if you're that good to achieve, I mean, that's never been done. To me, there should be a sustained period of dominance after that. You know, you're supposed to go and win that Champions League. You're meant to win the title another 2 or 3 times in the next few years. Do you ever look back at that and think, you know, we didn't make the most of that team we had?
Definitely not, definitely not. And that was the beginning of the end, really. The Invincibles was the beginning of the end because we haven't seen anything like it since. Even the Champions League run where we got to the final, we wasn't great that season.
No.
The Champions League run was kind of an anomaly, and we got there. And if we had won it, you know, who gives a shit if it's an anomaly or not? If we didn't deserve it or not, we've got one under our belts, but we didn't. And then when we look back at it all, and Invincibles being our last big trophy in terms of the Premier League and Champions League being mains, we didn't realize it at the time. We was living within our, like, in a sense, living within our means at the time. We was top boys. We was winning stuff. Arsene Wenger had said prior to the 2002-2003 season that Arsenal could go unbeaten. He was laughed at. He was mocked and whatever. He didn't do it that season, but he done it the next one. So, you know, we had a bit of swagger about us. You know, we had that, told you we could do it invincible. Wenger told you we could do it. So we could just talk shit around school, around sixth form, or whatever, you know, walk of life he was in. We had our chest out and, you know, we could talk with confidence of Arsenal. We didn't see what was to come. We didn't know that was going to be our last, you know, even down to when, well, we're going to talk about it, but when we moved into the Emirates to compete with the biggest teams, even I hold my hands up and say, I didn't realize we was competing with the biggest teams. But that's mad to think. We was in the Champions League final. We was invincible in the last 2 years before moving. So for me, it was that we was competing, but none of us really kind of took a step back to say, why would we move to compete when we are competing? We all thought it made sense to increase the financial capacity at the club. And in turn, that increased the interest on greedy people like Stan Kroenke.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
No, spot on, bro. And then, do you know what? Just briefly about the Champions League, like, because I know Henry said his biggest regret is that missed chance in the Champions League final, 1-on-1 with Valdez. You know, he scores that goal 99 times out of 100, but he said, didn't he, that because we were down to 10 men, his legs had kind of gone. And he just, I mean, that was the one thing I think people used to put against Henry. One, it was the record in finals compared to maybe like a Drogba.
Yeah. Yeah, people used to use that as a criticism, but at the end of the day, listen, Henry done things that no one else has done. Yeah. And when you do things like that, like people, even down with the Messi and Ronaldo argument, that if you support Messi, you pick holes in Ronaldo's game. If you support Ronaldo, you pick holes in Messi's game. Essentially, that's what we're doing, picking holes.
Yeah.
You know, so I think with that Henry argument, I believe he was top scorer how many times in this Premier League? Golden Boot, how many times? I believe he was top scorer for France when they won was it the Euros or the World Cup early on? I believe he was top scorer from the wing that year for them. I know Zidane had a massive impact. Other players had a massive impact, but you know, he's done his thing. I wouldn't knock him for his finest performances, even though that day, the only day I shed a tear for Arsenal was that day. Like, it was mad. It was actually mad. It because we waited so long to get there, and by that time we had already kind of moved on from some of the legends we had and created and had good times with, and we kind of saw that turnaround was happening, even with the Henrys and the Perez's and whatnot. It was sad because I then knew, okay, we're not going to do it with this team. We're not going to do it with these players.
Yeah.
I didn't think we're not going to do it at all, but that was the reality.
Would you, I know this question gets asked a lot, would you give up the Invincibles for a Champions League?
No, I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't. Invincibles is something people ain't done in the league, and I'm not saying it holds as much weight. Well, I am saying that. I kind of am saying that. It's hard to compare because they're completely different things. But what I am saying is, one Champions League to me for an Invincible season, I wouldn't swap. If you say 2 Champions Leagues, that might be a different story, yes. But Invincibles, no one's done that. Look at the trophy Wenger's hold. Wait, I've even got one here.
Have you got one? Yo, look. Yo, this is why I brought you on, The people don't know about Turkish,
Oh.
Man's got the trophy, bro.
Man's got... Did this mean something to me? And I see
that is amazing.
It's meant to be smaller than the Premier League because it was especially made for us. But
yeah,
I wouldn't swap this for a Champions League.
He's only got and pulled out the gold trophy, and I didn't even know you had that either.
Yeah, man. This one I got recently still. I got this one recently, but yeah, I'm happy with it, man. I'm happy. Someone said History FC. I can't lie. It is History FC.
It is.
You see old shirts back there. You see the gold trophy here. Like,
you know what I'm saying?
What else have I got? Like the old, look, I got Tony Adams, Bergkamp, Wenger, Ian Wright. Who else? It's not like I've got Aubameyang's book here or Masri's book or fucking Shamak's book. Like it's history. Everything around me is really history.
That's it, man. That's all we got. History. That's why always my green screen is history settings, man. You know what I'm saying? The old badge, everything.
That's what I'm saying, man. I look at this gold trophy and it reminds me, like, it just reminds me that at least I was alive for this. Do you know what I mean? At least I was, and that's what I feel for. At least I was alive for this, like, and that's what I feel for the young Arsenal fans because they've got nothing to remember or remind them that we was a great performing club, so we can be again.
Yeah.
At least we have this, Curtis. We have that memory of this, so we can demand what we demand. The younger fans, I'm not sure they have the same energy anymore.
Yeah. Oh, here he is. Look at Big Steve. Look. Yo, stop that, Steve. You know what I'm saying? Your team weren't even about them times there. I said, is there a war?
Steve ain't got one of these, though. Steve, I know you got the Premier League one, but you ain't got one of these, my guy. Yeah?
Man said, is there a war documentary on after this history? Look, we got another guest in the building. Big man himself, Kevin Campbell. Here he is. Brook the Neck Business.
What's happening, Turkish? What's happening, Curtis? You all right, guys?
Yes, what are you saying, Kev?
Turkish, show him that trophy, I beg you, man. That is amazing. He's only going to pull that out on the street.
Yeah, listen, I expect that from Turkish. Yeah, hold it up with pride, for sure. For sure. For sure. Definitely.
That is legendary. That.
It's got all the team names etched in it as well, yeah. And Steve, I'm struggling to find Man City here, mate. I'm struggling.
There's only one on that, Turkish. There's only one. Don't worry, there's only one.
There's only one, man. He's always lurking in the background, Steve, somewhere.
He's ready.
He's ready, man. Kev, just briefly, we're going into a bit more detail, but obviously with Wenger. Overall, how do you view him? Do you still view him as an Arsenal legend? Do you think he tarnished his legacy? How do you kind of view him?
No, of course, Arsene Wenger's an Arsenal legend, 100%. But I think what we got to break it down into probably 2 halves of his Arsenal career. The first half of his Arsenal career, more so the Highbury years, was incredible.
Yeah,
you know what he done and the players he brought in. Let's be honest, not a lot of people knew who these players were because they weren't playing at Inter or weren't playing at Juventus or weren't doing this. He brought them in and he built something special, which was fantastic. But it's the Emirates years is where the problems really begun. Because in a league that was weaker, let's be honest, it was weaker. He could get by qualifying for top 4 solely because we were the Arsenal. Then when everybody started to catch up kind of at the back end, then he started to get questioned because, you know, that midfield and that centre-back that we needed all them years that never got put in place, it was alarming because we were going to the big teams and we were, after 20, 25 minutes, the game was over. You know, that was under his tenure. So, again, we couldn't, in the end, qualify for Champions League. Why? Because we weren't as strong.
Yeah.
We weren't as strong. We had substandard players in there. And our legacy then was selling our better players. And
it was crazy.
And let's be honest, Curtis, Turkish, the club made it out that the players were the bad eggs. But it's the club. The club didn't want to keep them because they didn't want to pay them or they didn't want to. They probably made promises that they couldn't keep. So they had to go. Sad, man.
It's crazy. I heard Trevor Sinclair on the radio today, and he was saying how when he used to play against Arsenal, he said, you know, he just knew already, like, they will out battle you, they will outrun you, they will outplay you. He said there was hardly any way you could get the better of them. Where he's saying with this Arsenal now, you know, you can outwork them, you can outmuscle them, you can outplay them, and it's crazy how everything's changed at the club in that sense, isn't it? How fearful people were.
Curtis, you remember John Solarco?
Yeah, I remember him.
John Solarco at Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
he told me a story. Because you remember the away coach used to come up to the top of Avenel Road and it used to turn down the hill.
Okay.
And it used to come down and so the clock end will be on your left-hand side and you get to the bottom of the steps and the coach will pull up there, etc., right? He told me as soon as the coach would turn at the top of the road and you see all the gooners in the road, you knew what you were going to get. Coming to Arsenal, you knew what you were going to get. It don't matter what team that was out there, you knew if you weren't at the top of your game, you're getting hammered. Or if you come to try and whatever you try and outplay, you try and out physical, you are going to be in the battle of your life. They knew that for starters. So if any of the team wasn't quite on it, they were going down. But now, he said he looks at this team, and as the coach would turn, he'd be rubbing his hands together. You know, that's the difference. Yeah. And when you line up in the tunnel, and you come out, and you see the Arsenal boys, and you see every single one is physical.
Yeah.
The old team, even the smaller guys, they're physical. Now we've gone through that period where we were nice, neat, and tidy, and teams used to come and just bully us.
It's crazy.
Sad times, man. Sad times.
I mean, I know we're talking Wenger, but you know what, Kev? You'd fancy playing against this Arsenal team, wouldn't you, nowadays?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I would. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, you know, when I left and I came back, there weren't many times you get the better of Arsenal. You just know that. You know what to expect, but you look around a team and you say to yourself, okay, as a fan in the stand, guys, if a team gets physical with Arsenal, who could you guarantee is going to get stuck in? Let's be brutally honest. Which one of the team now can you say, if it kicked off on the pitch, they will be there?
Probably
Xhaka will try, but he'll get sent off. You
know what I mean? He'll go too far. There, and it's another thing, you don't want him to be there. And with Xhaka,
yeah, that's right, Turkish. But, I mean, isn't it saying something when it's Granit Xhaka's the only name you could mention, Curtis? And we don't even really want him at the club.
says a lot.
We've fallen down so far, just by attitude alone.
Crazy, man. Obviously, I was reading that Wenger book. I know Turkish. I know you was reading it as well, weren't you? But I didn't really rate the book. The new one that he brought out. He didn't reveal much in it really, but he was saying in 2003 the club were on the verge of bankruptcy, and saying that the wage bill and stuff, that the club had to move to the new stadium because, Man United and Chelsea and this, that, the other. But do you look back at that time frame where he was selling our best players every year? Do you look back at that now and give him any credit for that? Because at the time we were frustrated, but do you think he was working with one hand behind his back?
I think he was put in a tough position. Maybe Turkish would like to comment on it as well. I think he was in a tough position because his manager, he's had such success. The fans loved him. And really, it's to keep the train on the track. Now, how he can do that, top four then became a kind of badge of honor for us. We're going down the river at the Emirates, and people don't even realize we ain't got no paddles because we're too busy enjoying all the legacy teams. The Invincibles and doing doubles and, this player, that player. We're too busy lording it up. Yeah, we qualify for Champions League every year. And then when actually we realize, how are we going to steer this thing? We got no paddles. So we're just, we're going down this river, and there's no structure. There's nobody who could turn the ship around or stop it even. We ain't got an anchor. And now, look where we are. But the legacy is from there, because it has to start somewhere.
Yeah. Turkish, what do you think?
I don't believe Wenger when he says that. I don't remember that. I was very much around them times when, Arsenal moved from Highbury and Emirates. I don't remember no talk about bankruptcy and nothing of the sort. It was always, good stuff in the media. It was always positive stuff, even down to, I remember Arsenal versus Brazil was touted as something people want to see. That's how good the football we was playing. We didn't exactly sign the best players in the world ready-made. We didn't hand out the highest wages in the world ready-made. I think Wenger probably used those comments because he knows that the move into the stadium hasn't worked out. He knows that our soul essentially was left behind when we moved into the stadium. So when you talk about it 15 years later and you say we was on the verge of bankruptcy, some fans can understand it and give him credit for that. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. We was at the top of the game. We was winning Premier League. We went to a Champions League final. We was making money. We didn't have expensive players. We had assets. We had good young players coming through. Look at Ashley Cole being one of them. There was no problems them times. The problem started when we moved in and we started selling players. And they started feeding that excuse to us saying we need to sell players to pay off the stadium. But it's taken 14 years for Tottenham to move into their stadium, and following moving into their stadium, not only be banned from having fans for 2 seasons, but breaking their transfer record on Ndombele and then refusing 130 mil for Harry Kane. Less than 2 years after moving into a brand new stadium that costs more than the Emirates. How has that happened?
Turkish and spending money.
And that. That without even saying. So that's been proven to have been all a false narrative as well. So I look back at these things now. We have examples of the opposite and say, well, look, even I was, conned them times, because when we moved into the Emirates, I didn't see this coming. I thought, we need more money. It makes sense, but it hasn't made sense. And I sit here now regretting that.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because when we were going through all those difficult years of selling players and this, that, the other, and then we signed Mesut Ozil, I'm thinking, right, we're in the promised land now. You know what I mean? This is only going to go up from here. We're going to buy stars every summer, compete with Bayern Munich, all them talks. But it's like, it just kind of flustered around. We signed a big player here and there. We never seemed to buy them at the right time that we needed them. And then we find ourselves here today. Like, do you think we were lied to in terms of what to expect when we moved to the Emirates? Kev's already laughing, so I'm
laughing. Lied to. Club should have been called Porkies at the time. That's all they were doing, saying porky pies. It was pork pies, left, right, and centre. Anybody who went to Arsenal, you speak to even opposition fans going to Arsenal. Arsenal were a centre half and a central midfielder away from winning the league. Everybody could see that, but it never got addressed. Why did it not get addressed? I don't know. Again, it was, we have to pay the stadium back, we have to do this, we have to do that. And then, if you remember, under Gazidis, the narrative changed. It then became metrics. We look at players on metrics. Yeah. Nonsense. So the lies are there just to wash over the fan base, to keep them focused on the top four. The moment we stop getting the top four, people then start to look behind the curtain. And then it's there for everyone to see. We've been lied to left, right, and centre, constant.
Even down to Ozil. You mentioned Ozil. Okay, when did we start Ozil? Was it 2013 or 14?
13.
2013, yeah. Last 3 days of the window, right?
Yeah, after Tottenham. So,
yeah. I remember them times as well, and I remember Ozil. I'm Turkish, so I have that connection with him as well. And I thought to myself, yes, is this now the beginning of change? Yeah, and I gassed myself. We bought Sanchez the year after. Cool, another world-class player. But when we look back on it, if you have a team and a board and an ownership who have moved into a new stadium and we believe them in their paying off the debt, and then all of a sudden 2013 comes and now's the time where we're going to turn a corner, you do your transfer business early. You have a plan set out. You don't wait for the last 3 days of the window and hope that Bale goes to Real Madrid in order for us to get Ozil. If you have a plan as a club to say 2013 is when we can turn this club back around and start spending big again, you do it from the first few weeks of the window, not only to improve the speed of your overhaul and development, but to send shockwaves throughout Europe to the other teams saying Arsenal are back. Even though it gassed us fans to buy Ozil in the last 3 days of the window, the rest of the world looked at us and thought, it doesn't really mean much. And it hasn't meant much. So I think, again, the way they done it indicated that they're not there to change and turn it around. They're there to feed us what they can feed us, the bare minimum, in order to keep us quiet for as long as they can.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. And then obviously, you know, the Emirates time and the team started kind of falling apart. Henry left, this, that, the other. Do you think the Van Persie deal, because I know I've spoke to you about this quite a lot, Turkish, do you think that was, for me, that was the deal that made me look at Arsenal in a whole different way, to sell your best player to the rival that you've gone against all that time, Ferguson? Apparently it was a personal phone call as well. Like, did that just make you look at the club different at that point?
That was it. That was it. If anyone needed any more indication that we are so far gone off what we was, that was it. I think the fury of Van Persie choosing, and at the time we thought he chose Man United. Recently, he's come out to say he actually was going to go to Italy, and because Man United offered more, Gazidis kind of leaned more towards getting that extra few mil and pushed him to United instead. At the time, we all thought he chose them, and that was stuck truly well within our minds. But he also released a letter. And if you read that letter till this day, it resonates. To this day, it makes sense. He went into a meeting with the club to seek their ambition moving forward, and they showed him the bottom line, the figures. Players are not interested in the bottom line. Yes, they want their wages, and yes, they want to be paid. But there comes a time in a career when ambition also matters. And Van Persie told us it was down to that. And it's only now we're coming to realize that some of the things Van Persie said, I'm with him. Some of the things Fabregas said, I'm with him. Some of the things a few of these players who have left the club has said, even down to Ashley Cole. I know we hate Ashley Cole, but we lost him for £5,000 a week. We lost him because over the phone, we agreed a certain price with him. And when the contract came, it was £5,000 less. I'm sorry, but that is disrespectful. And as a big company, as a big club, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we get stuck on the fact that, Ashley Cole, you only left for £5,000 a week. What a scumbag. What a traitor. But in reality, it's maybe the way we've gone about it that's caused that rift initially. And
shouldn't even get to that, Turkish.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shouldn't have even got to that. He should have been tied up long ago. He's an England left back. Invincible. And you're selling them to a right. It's madness. Arsenal have a history under this regime of selling our best players to the teams that can afford them, who then are our rivals. That's the problem. That really is the problem. Players love the Arsenal. They want to stay at the Arsenal. But if Arsenal don't show the ambition, what are they to do? Stick at it just because it's Arsenal, or do they go and want to win something? They go and want to win something. It's Arsenal's problem in keeping these guys now. And as been proven, they couldn't. They were more than happy to sell to Manchester City, Liverpool, Man United. More than happy. And Barcelona, should I say. More than happy. Sell them, yeah, no problem.
Do you know what? You know how obviously everyone always calls him Cashley Cole and this, that, the other. But do you look back at that and think, listen, the guy went to Chelsea and won everything. Can you really blame him for going there?
I think the sore part is he's gone to Chelsea, a London rival, right? That's the sore part for us Gooners. But when we take off our fan head and we look at the whole bigger picture, if you're going to leave Arsenal and you're going to go somewhere else and be as successful as he's been, it's a great move.
Of course it is.
It's a great move. He never looked back.
No.
And here's the thing. You move and you go to Chelsea and then you see Arsenal start to do that. Slowly but surely, and you're doing that. It's a great move for him. Really was.
And I think sometimes we get caught up emotionally in the move rather than, it was like, Ashley Cole and Van Persie and Fabregas. But sometimes you got to look at the overall picture. Why are they walking out the door? You know what I mean? If everything was all right at Arsenal, you wouldn't leave.
Because you get fed up,
Yeah.
You get, don't you, Curtis, Turkish? You get fed up as a fan seeing this happen time after time after time.
Yeah.
And no change.
Crazy, man. And then, obviously, looking ahead, I always say that for me, one of the biggest mistakes Arsenal ever made, I think, was the Luis Suarez deal, personally, because I felt like that was almost the lifeline for Arsene Wenger, where he was faltering, things were going wrong. Suarez, best striker in the league. To me, I don't know about you guys, I think the deal was there to be done. This guy was training by himself. He didn't want to go on tour with Liverpool. If you go in at 45, 50 million, that deal probably gets done. And then it was old 40 million and a pound business.
How many deals have we been 5 mil off getting done? And that is one of them, for sure. The thing with Suarez, I look at it the same way, a lifeline. But then I think we got that lifeline with Alexis Sanchez as well, in terms of a great player who can attract other players to the club and is a true winner within.
Yeah.
So we got that lifeline in the end. But with Luis Suarez, the way we went in, again, I need people to start looking at the way we do things, not just look at 150 million spent this summer and say we should be doing better. Look at the way we've done things over the last 2-3 years before making that assessment. The way we went in for Luis Suarez, 40 million and a pound, I can understand the Liverpool guys saying, what are they smoking over there at the Emirates? I can understand that. But if you go in for 45 million, they would probably have accepted. So we was 4.99 whatever million off and getting Luis Suarez. And look what Luis Suarez turned out to be.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, when you look at this statement here, Wenger says we had an agreement with the player and his agent, but the agent claimed there was a clause of an offer above 40 million. Liverpool will be obliged to sell him. To check this was true, we offered 40 million and a pound. This may have seemed ludicrous, I admit. I mean, surely there must be a way that you could find out legally what's written into his contract. Why would you just have a go and just see what happens? Like, it's crazy. He scored 33 goals the following season.
Curtis, the agent would have a copy of his contract.
Yeah.
Simple. If you want to see it, you send the delegate privately to go and meet the agent and look at the contract. It's not hard. Then if the clause is there, say, right, do you know what? It is Liverpool we're dealing with. Let's not take the piss. Let's go with 45, 50 million. Is their star man with Steven Gerrard. Let's get him.
Yeah.
He wants to come. But cheapskate, as we've proven to be, 40 million and a pound. Do you know what? Out of disrespect, Liverpool won't do that deal, even if we came with 50 million after that.
Yeah. Spot on. It's just crazy situation, that, man. Like, I think we would have won the title if we signed Suarez.
I think you're right.
I think we would have won the title if we kept Van Persie as well.
Yeah. We were lacking. I mean, you look at, we sold Van Persie, we signed Podolski, Olivier Giroud, Lucas Perez, Danny Welbeck, 4 strikers. None of them really made the grade. The only time we actually bought the top striker was Aubameyang, and we only bought him because Alexis left the club. It's like we buy one to replace another rather than adding to the one that, you know, even when Sanchez was there, we needed that striker.
Yeah, that's what we keep on doing. We don't support the players enough. We seem to find a gem, and then we expect that gem to do the majority of the work and then do the bare minimum around. That's what Fabregas said happened. Fabregas said he came through and he felt like, you know, he was made captain. He appreciates that, but there was too much pressure on his shoulders and he didn't see enough winners around. And in the end, that led to his departure. He was always going to go Barca, but maybe if we supplied him with more winners around, he would have stayed a bit longer and achieved something with the club first. But, you know, again, I look back and I don't blame Fabregas.
No. He was a young guy, wasn't he? Do you know what was crazy? Just this thing here. They asked Wenger in his book, why did he not re-sign Fabregas from Barcelona when he'd inserted a buyback clause in his contract? And Wenger said, I wanted players to realise if you leave Arsenal, you can't just come back here. I mean, is that not cutting off your nose to spite your face? And then he actually brought Sol Campbell and Thierry Henry back to the club for short stints afterwards.
That says to me, do you know what that says to me, guys? That says to me the club couldn't afford him. That's what it says to me.
Yeah.
Because Thierry Henry, as you said, came back. Sol Campbell came back. So why not Fabregas? Can't afford him. Can't afford him. Didn't want to pay him the money. Typical. That's what it boils down. You could make any... Listen, people could make any excuse. Arsenal weren't even in the right for him. That tells you everything. Couldn't afford him.
It's crazy, man. Can you imagine, like, Fabregas and Sanchez and Ozil, and if we'd have got a striker as well? It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but Curtis, here's the thing about that group. Even with Sanchez and Ozil, because there was a time when them two were lighting up the Premiership. Let's be honest. They were lighting the Premiership up. But what was our problem? Our problem was centre midfield and centre back. That was our problem. And we never bought the right players to just slot in there. There was that time where the year Leicester won it. We beat Leicester at the Emirates. That should have been our title.
That was ours. Well, but last minute.
Yeah, but we didn't have the winners, that winning mentality of a centre-half and a centre midfielder, roll the sleeves up and say, you glory boys, you go and do the business. Because anything that drops in the midfield, I'm going to break it down. And at the back, we got a centre-half who's dominant. Hasn't happened for how long? Probably since Gabriel and Thomas Partey came in. Years and years passed.
Do you think Wenger got caught up in the Pep Guardiola thing? Because he seemed to change completely the kind of player he was looking for. You know, we had powerful, quick athletes, and he wanted a load of Haller, Brzezinski, little magicians on the ball.
He changed because those more powerful players, Curtis, everyone was onto them. All the other teams, remember, teams were looking at Arsenal, and they were looking at these guys who they'd never heard of. And these guys they'd never heard of were running rings around everybody else, look more athletic, look more powerful, scoring goals for fun. all of a sudden that French African market all of a sudden opened up and everybody was through that door. So Wenger had to change tack, so he thought. Because remember, now you're battling against some of the teams who could afford more wages than you.
Yeah.
So you haven't got the jump on everybody else anymore. So he goes cheaper, maybe buy this one, that one. You know, you can get them in. Haven't got the power, haven't got the same toughness, but are really talented players. And that's what he was built on playing lovely football. And we suffered it. Yeah, we suffered it because we got top 4 every season.
Yeah, that whole top 4 thing, man. I think that's what disappointed a lot of people, because Wenger was such a winner. And then when he was kind of justifying to us, this top 4, like, it's such a big achievement, we was like, well, have we gone from the title winners or challengers with United to top 4? How are we accepting that?
Gradual. It was gradual, with excuses and reasons in between that made sense at the time. It all made sense at one time. That's why I don't want to make sense of what they're saying now, because it's still the same people saying it. And we've given them enough chances to produce something better than they've produced. Fabregas era was one era. Then you had the Jack Wilshere and Ramsey era. That's another. Then you have the Ozil and Sanchez. That's another. That's 3 different projects, processes that have been tried, tested, and years gone past, not days or months, years, without ever achieving what we really should be achieving. And that's getting back to at least the level, not winning the Premier League or Champions League, getting back to that level should be a bare minimum, should be the least, the minimum standard. Get back to a level where we can compete. We're in the top competitions and we're fighting until late into a season. The last, 4 or 5 seasons, down the drain by February, January, some of them. Last season, probably November, you know? And that sucks the life out of you as a fan. Yes, you've got an FA Cup here and there, but when your Premier League season dies early, you're like, that's what it's all about, essentially. That's why I always say, give me the Premier League next over Champions League all day. I need us to be top of England before we're top of Europe again. So for me, the season is the indicator and is the one that keeps momentum going for fans, for everyone. And when you die early in a season, it kills everything.
It's crazy, isn't it? And then, like you were saying earlier, Kev, the way that he was kind of signing players with Gazidis, and they were putting all these stat DNA, and I read things that El Neni had completed the most passes in the Swiss league, and you know, they took Xhaka over Kante because they didn't want to pay agent fees and stuff like that. He seemed to be making some crazy signings towards the end of his time at Arsenal.
Makes sense, doesn't it? All these data and stats. Again, El Neni made the most passes. Great. Tell me the intangibles. What's his character like? Is he tough? And when the chips are down, will he turn up? That's number 1 for me. That's the first thing. If he hasn't got that, do not bring him to Arsenal. That should be the minimum requirement. Then the talent comes after that. Because you know what? When you're not playing well, at least I know, or the fans will know, they can rely on you to put a shift in. And that's what we don't get now. We're seeing players now who are just turning up for Arsenal, going through the motions. That's what we see. You know, you can't rely on them. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I expect Arsenal to win. But you know what? If they play terribly, would you be surprised? I wouldn't.
No, not all. I mean, Turkish, how much of the situation that we're in now do you still look at Wenger and think some of this is his fault? Should he have left earlier and allowed that transition to happen quicker?
You see, the more we've talked, something's come to my mind, and I always question, and I'm right to question, and I think it's fact now, the character and mentality of the dressing room, the atmosphere of the dressing room. Is it one built for winners? And as we was talking, and I was kind of going through the years and the move from Highbury to Emirates and some of the squabbles Wenger had with a few players and some of the sales and Wenger probably feeling let down by certain players, I asked myself, did Wenger ever successfully manage great players with ambition. And I'm struggling to kind of think, because even down to when Henry wanted to win Champions League, Arsene Wenger couldn't promise him that here, and he had to go. That went for Vieira too. That went for a lot of our legends back then. And ever since then, anytime we have a player that's on the verge of being great with ambition, Van Persie, Fabregas, they leave the club. So
yeah.
I feel like Wenger, between a mix of being let down by some of these players and then also thinking that he should be respected and never talked down to, or never maybe, the players shouldn't demand of him, listen to him at all costs. I think a mix of that seeped into the dressing room, and he started buying players that would always listen to him, your wish is my command type of player, and they wouldn't question it. And down to the point where, when you look at Arsene Wenger's team when he left the club and the ties died, I don't think we had one player with a strong character in the dressing room. And that is still a problem today. Obviously, over the years, we've got Partey, Tierney, who we hope has a big impact in the mentality, character of the dressing room, and the younger players growing up. But I think I hope that police is going to arrest Kroenke somewhere. I just, I forgot even where I was, but I think with Wenger, there's still a big imprint on this team. People keep on saying, stop talking about Wenger, but he had so much to say at this club and do at this club that even within 3 years, 3 of his centre-backs are still starting against Man City. And the dressing room and atmosphere is still low. There's still not a winning attitude. There's still no leaders and captains. This all stems from what Wenger kind of produced in the end of his career.
It's true. And I think you look at Man United, how long it's taken them to get over Ferguson. And, they still are probably still figuring that out now. And they've spent a lot more than we've spent. I just think until you get that right manager and that right setup around him in place, it's very difficult to move on from a manager that's been at the club for so long, 22 years.
It's a long time. It's a big legacy. It's a big legacy, guys. And Man United, as you say, they've spent fortunes to try and win that title, and they've not done it. And we're Arsenal, we're playing catch up right now, because the amount Chelsea have spent, the amount City have spent, the amount United have spent, all we're doing is trying to play catch up, because they've already bought the top players over years. So they only need 1 or 2 here and there. They don't need an overhaul of players like we do. We still need probably another 6 or 7 players to fatten that squad up and to get in the team. 6 or 7.
Yeah.
No, and that's not including the outgoings. So we're in a tough spot. We really are.
What do you think with this? Do you think David Dein going was a big part of the downfall of Wenger?
Catastrophic for Arsenal, whether Wenger or not. David Dein wanted Arsenal to be number 1, guys. Number 1. That was always the thing in his head. I want to be number 1. And if you want to be the best and you fall short, at least you could see that the club want to be the best. Because we didn't always win, even under Wenger. But you could see we wanted to be the best. And as a fan, sometimes you have to accept that. But now we don't even want to be the best. We haven't wanted to be the best for years. And we got what we deserved. And you know what? I look back and I look at the qualifying for the Champions League, for instance, and getting beat 10-2 on aggregate by a Bayern Munich. Don't you think the alarm bell should have been ringing in our heads from those moments? Because we moved to the Emirates to compete with the Bayern Munichs of this world. And there we are, playing them over 2 legs and getting absolutely stuffed, getting tucked in by a team we're supposed to be battling on the same level. It's not good enough. But again, we don't want to be the best. We were just surviving. We'll get the top 4 this season, maybe get a cup. And you could always tell by the level of player and the hunger of the players.
Turkish, what do you make of some people saying in the comments, but Dean kind of introduced Kroenke, and great time to have you on. What do you make when people say that?
Listen, people shouldn't tarnish Dean's name without knowing what they're saying. Now, people make mistakes, and that was a mistake from David Dein. He introduced Stan Kroenke to Peter Hillwood as a potential investor, potential new owner, right? And Peter Hillwood dismissed this. Dean came with, this is the way football's going. And over the years, we saw that that's the way football went. Rich owners come in, take over, and more often than not, you're successful. So Dean introduced Kroenke. Hillwood didn't like that because Hillwood, and I quote, wanted to keep the club British. Yeah. He dismissed Kroenke, and with that, there was problems between Hillwood and David Dein on the future of Arsenal Football Club and personal differences between them. That essentially is the demise of Arsenal Football Club. Hillwood's personal differences with David Dein caused what we're seeing now. Because David Dein, a few years after that, after introducing Kroenke and that leading to his eventual exit from Arsenal, David Dein comes in with red and white holdings and Usmanov. Now, when he comes in with Usmanov, that's when Peter Hillwood then turns to Kroenke, asks him, is he still interested? Because he wants no part of Usmanov. It's one thing keeping the club British, but it's another choosing between an American and someone like Usmanov. And he went with the closest to British you're going to get out of the two. And he called Stan Kroenke, who, yes, was originally introduced by Dean years before. But no, Dean is not the reason he is there. Dean came back in with Usmanov. And that's when Kroenke started buying up shares. Hillwood started swaying other majority holders to sell to Stan Kroenke. And in the end, Usmanov could only buy as much as he could buy. And that was 30%. And with 30%, he wasn't even allowed on the board. He wasn't even allowed to say. And Usmanov come out and said, I just want you to spend. So Kroenke even stopped one of his majority shareholders in 30% spending money, which would have improved his business and would have improved his bottom line. Strictly, in my opinion, down to racism, down to where he's from and what he thinks he knows about him. That's why they didn't work together. And in the end, that's why Usmanov gave up, sold up, and he's now part of Everton. So David Dean's not to blame here. Essentially, Hillwood, rest in peace, his personal differences with David Dein caused this, and the rest is history. Here we are with Stan Kroenke, 100% owner. Let's not forget, our fans had banners saying, love Arsenal, hate Usmanov. This is how strong the agenda was. There was no reason to hate Usmanov. We as fans had what has Usmanov done to Arsenal or to Arsenal fans? Nothing. But we've never seen a love Arsenal, hate Kroenke. We don't see that pushed and allowed from the club. But the one that we should have brought in, he was vilified. He was made to be a villain. We don't know where his money's from. Let's not forget, Kroenke tried to bring an animal hunting channel to the UK when he first took over Arsenal. He was on the verge of bringing an animal hunting channel to the UK. This man's not good. He's not a good man either. So, it really pisses me off when people don't know what really caused where we are now. Exactly. It's annoying because it's there to see.
Yeah, man. Yo, man's educating people in the comments, man. I'm telling you.
And Turkish makes some real strong points, right? You imagine you spend hundreds of millions to get 30%, and they won't even let you on the board to have a say. It's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. But one thing I will say, Turkish, I don't know whether it was racism or it was the Kroenke agenda, because he knew where he wanted to take the club. He don't want Usmanov on the board. He wants him out because he wants to buy it all. He wants it all.
And potentially, Kevin, I can't lie, you're probably right, because when you hear the Super League stuff and then you hear Glazers and Woodward in 2004 discussing this, Kroenke probably caught wind of that. And his long-term goal was to probably own 100% and go into Super League. And that's why, yes, he wouldn't allow Usmanov on the board. But yeah, you're right. We find these things out in hindsight as well. Because
that's right. After the event, don't you?
Yeah.
A lot of it's after, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what causes the mess, because we don't see it at the time, we see it after.
Of course.
Yeah, crazy, man. And obviously, Kroenke's still here now, man, and it's not looking likely in the short term that he's going to leave.
Curtis is going nowhere unless he gets an offer he can't refuse. He's going nowhere. Daniel Ek, it was a great opportunity, and he just doesn't have deep enough pockets, mate. He doesn't. You know, Kroenke's wealthier. Kroenke's wife is even wealthier. So he don't need paper. You know what I mean? He don't need paper. If you make him a crazy offer, then he might say, okay, do you know what, I'll sell it. But no.
Do you think there's anything in this Qatari interest, Turkish, or do you think it's just more
tweets, man? Tweets. And I put myself in those shoes. If I'm a billionaire, would I be tweeting or would I be calling my lawyer to make a bid? I'd be calling my lawyer to make a bid if I'm interested, not going on Twitter to tweet. And some of the tweets he's put out is riddles. And you know what it's like with Arsenal fans online. We click a lot. You know, clickbait attracts us. We always want to know the latest, and that's what I think it is, just a ploy to increase their, you know, market or whatever. If they come through with a bid, I'm all for it. I'm not dismissing them. I'm not dismissing Daniel Ek, Dangote. I'm not dismissing someone coming in from nowhere to do it. But like Kev said, unless they come in strong and they come in without the use of the internet and all this, because Kroenke says to X second bid, we don't need your money. And we all know they don't need the money. But when you're telling someone we don't need your money, you're essentially saying, don't come back to me because there's nothing you can do. Yeah. And that could be because of his approach on the internet, trying to put pressure. Right. I want the next interested party to just pick up the phone, make a call, and see if you can get it done like that. And let's wake up one day to news that we're about to be sold instead of a build-up.
But Turkish, you make a really great point. But you know the other point that absolutely would have got the Kroenkes seething? He got ex-players on board before he even spoke to them.
Yeah.
All that is for the fans. And we've spoken to, you know, Arsenal fans, this, and we're going to get a representation on the board. So Kroenke must have said, and you expect me to bend for that? Yeah. You must be crazy.
He doesn't want to seem. These billionaires don't want to seem weak, do they? So they don't want to.
Do it privately. Come to me privately, then we could see. But the moment you're trying to drum up social media hype and power, nah, I don't even deal with you. Your money ain't good here.
Yeah, it's the wrong approach, isn't it? Like, just briefly rounding up on the Wenger thing. At what point did you feel like, both of you? At what point did you feel like was the time for him to go?
FA Cup Chelsea.
FA Cup Chelsea, yeah.
Because you remember, he said he's gonna make an announcement at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. We won the cup. We beat Chelsea in the final. It would have been perfect for Arsene Wenger to say, that's my lot, guys. But he announced that I've got another 2-year contract. Could you remember the response, man? It was... because I don't think the fan base hate Arsene Wenger at all.
No.
I think that the fan base love him.
Yeah.
But things weren't going right. Things weren't right at the club. And him doing that turned a lot of fans, I think, against what was going on. That's my thought, anyway.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Van Persie.
Would you?
Yeah. I think that was a big one for me. Remember, I think we was on the stream before, and remember I said, remember when Jay-Z brought out Nas at one of those concerts?
Yeah.
It kind of felt like that rivalry is now buried. Kind of Jay-Z won it.
Yeah.
You know?
He's won.
It felt like that with Ferguson and Wenger, but at the same time, you know, that kind of, the years that went by since Van Persie, it kind of told me that Wenger chose the board and the owners over the fans. And that was really where it started turning sour. And when Van Persie tells us about the figures he was shown rather than the ambition, if that's the case, then Wenger should have left as well. Because if it's about figures and not ambition, then that's when, if you love the club and you love the fans and you love your legacy, you call it a day. But he held on, and he got pay increases, which coincided with our decline. And in the end, it ended the way it ended.
Yeah. I think for me, I felt like after we beat Hull, I always felt like he was going to have one more go at it. Just because I thought he finally got that trophy, thought, let me have one more go at the league. I felt like when Leicester won the title, he was done. Because I thought if every single rival falls off a cliff and we still can't capitalise on it and Leicester end up winning it. I think that was the season when Giroud didn't score for 15 games.
Yeah.
And then, there were rumours that Pep was in the background and Klopp, and we still gave Wenger new contracts. But overall, because I just wanted to ask you this, would you give Arsene Wenger a statue or name a stand after him at the Emirates?
Statue for me.
Yeah.
He'd get a statue for me. Yeah, I think what he's done in the first part of his career, Arsenal career, he deserves it because he's been the most successful. And he's been the manager of the Invincibles as well. The team played unbelievable football. Talent, changed the Premier League, didn't he? Yeah. So I think, for me, he deserves a statue like that with Turkish's gold trophy in his hand. That should be fitting for him, I believe.
Turkish.
I'd say yeah, but in due time. I think let's try to get Arsenal back to some sort of high level competition, and then do something like that. Because I'd want it to come at a time when we've got a bit more hope and belief in and around the fan base, more so than right now. Because there's still remnants of what Wenger's done that remain. So I think in maybe 5-10 years, when we are hopefully back to a level of competition again we're happy with, bring out that statue, and we look at that statue and remember the good times rather than remember the bad times.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. For me, like you said earlier, Turkish, he gave us some of the best moments we've ever seen as Arsenal fans, so, but yeah, I just think at the moment it's a little bit of a touchy subject and situation because we're struggling, but I think overall he will probably end up with one, so just briefly before I round up, that's the end of the Wenger talk anyway, but obviously just looking ahead, Arteta and Norwich tomorrow and the next 4 league games before the international break. Do you think there's hope for Arteta to turn it around? He said he needs all his players back. I think pretty much everyone's available this weekend. So what do you think happens from this point?
Go Turkish, I'll let you go because, listen, my response is going to be very short.
When Curtis said he's got everyone back, I said to myself, he ain't got his main man Xhaka, but I thought, let me leave that. But then here he is.
That's probably a positive, though, that he's suspended.
Exactly.
Probably is. Listen, I'm positive about the Norwich game because when I see Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, and Tierney, that's a back 5 that I don't associate to the demise of Arsenal. I don't associate to mistakes of the past few years. It's a fresh back 5. I like it. You got Partey and Lokonga in front of them. That's fresh to me. I can get behind that. And then you got Saka, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Pepe, Oba. We like all of them already. So I'm gonna be confident about Norwich, but I think Burnley is when the test comes. Away to Burnley, Sean Dyche. If we don't get 3 points there before the Tottenham game, then I won't see any improvement. The Norwich game doesn't really do much. I think we should win it, we will win it, but it doesn't, show a change in maybe form. It could just be a 1 win like West Brom was.
Kev, go on then.
For me, that we're going to find out. The next 4 games are the key for Arteta. We will beat Norwich. I don't think it's going to be easy. But him having his own team virtually now, as Turkish quite rightly said, the back four, back five with the two sitting midfielders are his. We should see improvement there. No Xhaka, I think, is a massive plus. It's a tick in the box. What we need is, we need Olba to turn up, we need Laka to turn up, we need Ødegaard, just play like he did in midweek. That'll do. Finding those key passes, etc. Whether it's Pepe, Saka, whoever starts up the top end. We need them to do what they do. And we're going to find out Norwich at home, Burnley, North London derby, and what's the one after that? Is it Brighton or Crystal Palace or whoever it is?
Brighton.
Brighton away. These are the big tests for us because we know we've got to build up some momentum. That's the key for us now. We started the season poorly. Okay, Mikel Arteta, there's no excuses now. You've got your team. Let's see it. And if we don't see it in these next 4 games, I think they may pull the trigger.
You think so? Next international break.
I do. I think they may. If there's no improvement, well,
yeah.
I seriously think they may pull the trigger, Curtis. Yeah.
I don't know if they got fingers to pull a trigger at the moment. It should have been pulled a long time ago. But we hope so.
Turkish, don't forget the 2 opportunities they had to bring in that really experienced guy.
Yeah.
They ignored it.
Again.
They ignored the opportunity. So, when you get to 7 games and you're struggling, that's a big chunk of your season.
Yeah, it's peak.
So
I just wanted to ask you both, and I'm just thinking ahead here. If a situation occurred where Arteta did leave, I saw a show where Robbie was saying they have to get Conte, no matter what the situation. They've got to make it where he can't refuse the offer. Do you think they can go and get a Conte, or do you think we're in that situation again where these top managers, we're not going to pay them, we're not going to back them, and we get another mid-table manager?
If you don't pay Conte, he's not coming. Simple as that. If you don't pay him, he's not coming. And if you don't give him the war chest he wants, he's not coming. Simple. A guy like that isn't available because he's a bad manager. He's available because somebody at Inter Milan pulled the rug from out underneath him with selling players. So he's going to want to go in somewhere knowing that he can do the job.
I agree.
Yeah.
I look at after the talks with Tottenham fell out, he mentioned he likes challenges. He said, a lot of people tend to think I want everything on a plate. He said, no, I like a challenge, but at the same time, at Inter, it didn't progress. Come this summer, it changed a little bit, hence why he left. So I think he'd be up for the challenge, but like Kev said, would have to give him what he wants. And I think he's worthy of giving what he wants. And he's probably the only available manager that's worthy of giving him what he wants at the moment.
Yeah, listen, man, I just, if Arteta was to move on, I don't see any other option. I don't think Zidane would be interested in it. But yeah, Conte, for me, we would have to get him. But would this board want to work with somebody like that? He don't strike me as an easy person to work with.
That's the change we need to see from the board. And then I might be quiet for a few months because I might say to myself, Conte won't risk his name for Kroenke. He must be getting something he wants. So I'm gonna believe in Conte.
Yeah, his reputation
just
the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, 100%. Just quickly, Turkish, one thing I wanted to ask you. Kroenke, do you actually give him any credit for this sum, for the amount of money he's given Arteta?
I don't, because number one, we're yet to find out where it came from. That will come out in about 4 or 5 months, where the revenue for this transfer window came from. Don't forget, he took out a loan at the end of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if the loan is put to the club and that's how we got our P's. But again, it might be Kroenke. Now, on the flip side of things, would I give him credit for 150 million spent? No, because he's waited so long, all of these years, to spend 150 mil is not enough. If this is the change that you want to make, and that is a financial change more so than maybe bringing in a manager like Conte and showing us development there, then it needs to be 200 plus mil. Because yes, we've spent the most this season, but we've spent 5 mil more than the Man United team who finished second last season. That's not enough of a differential to say we're going to catch up to them. 5 mil more. You know, come on, like it's different. It's 150 mil 10 years ago, more than happy with. 150 mil now is different.
Kev, just briefly before I wrap up, what's your thoughts on the transfer window? You know, me, myself, a lot of people have been saying, great, we spent 150, but how many of these players make a difference to this team right now? Is it more potential than ready-made quality now?
No, I think we're going to see. I think what we have to be able to do is sit back and watch them and see how much better they are. Because for the first time in our Arsenal fan watching, we're seeing a new back four and a new midfield two, all together, hopefully, all together on the pitch at the same time.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully. We've not seen that in so many years. So I think we have to be able to give it a little bit of time to develop. Not too much, because it's a results business. We know that. But I think we need some wins under our belt. Once we get some wins under our belt, everyone will start to not feel too easy, but we'll start to relax a little bit more. Because I think we're uptight at the moment, because 0.0 goes down. Come on, that's not Arsenal. That is not Arsenal right now.
That can't run. Yeah. But listen, big up to you both for coming on. Really appreciate you giving up your time. Over 2,000 people in the chat. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. Go and subscribe to Turkish. Is approaching 50K. Vote for us both. Football Content Awards. Links in the description. Anything you want to say, guys?
I'm a judge on that, Curtis, so I've already voted for you as a judge as well.
You're a judge on there as well?
Yeah, I voted for you already. I was meant to message you the other night and say, yo, I'm bringing the man in. That's it.
You got that inside info, you know what I mean?
You got it in quick. I love that.
Yeah. Come on. We need some trophies in the Arsenal fan base, you know what I mean?
True.
Yeah, but, I'll be doing a watch along tomorrow for the game. What are you doing? The AFTV one tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be at the AFTV watch along. Yeah.
Kev, you on TV this weekend or anything?
I've got bits and pieces to do, but I won't be watching the Arsenal game, so I'll be keeping up with it. So
okay, that's no stress for you then, no Arsenal, so you can enjoy it.
Yeah, well, listen, I get the stress because my phone will be buzzing non-stop. If things are going good, it'll be quiet. If things are going bad, it'll be crazy.
Yeah,
Turkish, I want to see the gold trophy one more time. History Channel settings, man.
History Channel settings, yeah.
You've done well to get older. That looks good, man.
Yeah, man. It's quite a good quality one still.
That looks good. That's proper. That's
fantastic.
The real.
Nice way to end the stream.
Nice way to end. There you go. Big up to everyone in the chat, and we'll see you all tomorrow.